Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Android for Work, Enhanced Mobile Security in Your Back Pocket with Google and IBM. Today we're joined by Nadim and Frank. Nadim is a product manager for Android for Work who is based in Mountain View. Nadim joined Google last year with the acquisition of Divide, where he was VP of Product Development. Frank is IBM Mass 360's Director of Quality Assurance and Android Ecosystem and has been in the IT industry for more than 15 years. My name is Kayla Heineman, and I'll be your moderator today. Now, real quick, just a few housekeeping items before we begin. If you've joined a webinar with us in the past, then you might notice that we have a new look. We are using the On24 webinar platform to enhance your webinar experience. The webinar console is completely customizable. You can enlarge the slides and minimize the Q&A box, so we hope you take advantage and play around with your console. This webinar is expected to last about 45 minutes to an hour and is in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so if you have a question you'd like answered, please be sure to submit it through the Q&A box located on the left-hand side of your screen. Feel free to minimize this box if you'd like. We are recording today's session, and we'll make a link to the recording and slides available by email. So we have an exciting agenda planned for you today. Nadim is going to start off with an Android for Work program overview, followed by a closer look at the technical specifics of the solution. He'll highlight some real-life use cases and talk about the newest features from Android Marshmallow. Frank will then follow with a review of Mass 360 and the Android for Work integration. Then we'll round out the hour with audience questions. So with that, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Nadim to kick it off. Nadim?
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nadim Tawileh. I'm product manager for Android for Work at Google. Very excited to be here today to take you through the Android for Work program, and also looking forward to your questions in the Q&A session at the end. So we've launched Android for Work with the release of Android Lollipop in 2014. To start us off, I'll talk about some of the principles for Android for Work and really the high-level goals that we had set out to achieve. Our main intention with Android for Work was to create a consistent baseline for the management of Android. We wanted to make the management of Android easier for our partners and easier for the customers. And what we mean by consistent management is effectively making it such that IT admins do not have to necessarily be concerned with what type of Android device they are managing. They can just manage Android in a single, uniform way. Now, to be clear, we still very much expect OEMs and other partners to continue to innovate with their own solutions. What we want to do is provide new features, as we always have with Android, but also in keeping with the Android principles, we look to partners to build on top of those new features. So Samsung, for example, does very cool things with extending Android for Work with their own technology and features. So as an example, if you're an IT admin and you want to leverage one of those Samsung features and also standardize all of your devices to Samsung, then that's obviously a very good solution for you. If you're an IT admin that wants to enable BYOD in a more general manner across a wider range of Android devices, then using Android for Work would be the right solution for you in this case because, again, you wouldn't have to worry about which type of Android device you're managing. You can do all of Android in a consistent manner. So I'll go through some of the various technology components that make up Android for Work in the next few slides, but it's just important to realize here that Android for Work is not just technology and features developed by the Android team. It is a program that includes partners and absolutely depends on partners for success. OEMs and device manufacturers, application developers, and certainly EMM partners like IBM, for example. So the Android team builds the features in the platform, and then we depend on EMMs to make a management solution out of it to their customers. In the next few slides, we'll take a closer look at the technology and product features that are part of Android for Work. We'll talk about the work profile, other ways of managing the device, and we'll also talk about Google Play for Work. I've mentioned earlier the management APIs and basically our desire to build those APIs such that you have the one uniform or the one consistent way to manage Android in general. And that statement really goes hand in hand with the diversity of devices in the Android ecosystem. So when you think of Android and how many devices are available, there's many different form factors to choose from, hundreds of device choices, whether it's value devices or premium devices, waterproof devices, rugged devices, all running Android and all manageable in exactly the same way using the same EMM. Let's start with the work profile. The work profile is a feature that we introduced in Lollipop, so back when we launched Android for Work last year. Now, the concept of multiple users has existed for some time with Android, as some of you might know. So you might have seen, for example, multiple users on Android tablets. What the work profile is essentially another Android user, except it is running side by side with what we call the primary or the main user and sharing the same UI or some of the same UI elements, like, for example, the same launcher and the same notification bar. This is designed primarily for the BYOD case, or the bring your own device company model, where the primary user or the main profile is basically the employee space or the personal space, and then the work profile would obviously be the work environment. On the security side, the fact that it is another Android user means that the data is completely partitioned and separate from the main user. So I could have Chrome running on the personal side and another instance of Chrome running in my work profile. They are two different instances. The data for the two is completely separate and independent. On the management side, again, given that those are different users with different data stores, my company is in a position where it can control everything about the work profile, but it cannot control the primary profile or the main user. So this way, as an employee, I am comfortable that I'm not subjecting, my entire device or my entire phone to management, given that this is BYOD and I purchased the phone and I ideally want to enjoy at least some of it. But then also as a company, if I'm the IT admin or if I'm the company, I also have the comfort that the corporate data that is on the phone is being kept separate and secure from any personal data. From a user perspective, the UI is effectively what you see in this screenshot. So you will notice that there's a single launcher, so it does look like Android in general. All the applications that are in the work profile, though, will have this little badge on them that identifies them as a work application. If I launch a work app, I'd be in work mode, of course. It doesn't show it in this slide, but the badge also applies to other things in the user space, like, for example, notifications. So if you get a notification from a work application, that notification also has the badge on it. So I mentioned that we introduced the work profile, or the concept of the work profile with Lollipop, with Android Lollipop last year. You might be asking, what about Android devices that are on versions prior to Lollipop? Our solution, so we do have a solution for that, and our solution to that is actually in the form of an application rather than a platform capability, because we obviously did the platform capability with Lollipop. So for the previous platforms, the solution is an application. The Android for Work app will, very much like the work profile, when it's installed, it will create another profile on the device where all the company apps can live. Everything that I had mentioned earlier about management and security still apply here. The data is kept separate, the data between the personal space and that profile, and the IT department or the company, in this case, manages, again, only the work profile. Okay, so the two pieces of technology that I covered so far cater to the BYOD use case, which is, again, the bring your own device, where an employee is actually, the employee purchased their device, but they want to use it for the purposes of work as well. A work managed device is the ability for the company to control the entire device if it's want to. So let's say in the typical corporate liable use case. Full device management, just as a general concept, is not something that's new with Android. So we've had some of that for years, but the APIs of Android for Work have been enhanced to provide a more complete coverage for what an EMM might want in terms of management. We've also added some very cool features with Android for Work, like the ability to set up a device completely via an NFC bump. So if you want to picture what the experience is like here, you boot up a brand new device, take it out of the box, turn it on, and before you have to press anything on the device or log in or do any of that, you just do an NFC bump against another device, and that's it. From there, you will watch the device set itself up, bring itself under management with the right EMM, like a MAS 360, for example. So we've covered different aspects of management when it comes to Android for Work in the previous slides, whether it is a BYOD use case or corporate liable or otherwise. The third piece of technology that I want to highlight here is Play for Work, which is really key as far as Android for Work goes. I like to describe Play for Work as the company's own filter to the Play Store that everyone knows and uses today. So as an IT admin, I have access to all the millions of apps that are in play today, and what I can do for my company is I can select exactly which ones my employees can access. So it's really a way for companies to customize everything about the Play Store as it exists today and make it display only what they want it to display. On top of that, the company can also distribute its own internally developed applications using Play, and those apps, of course, would only be made available to that particular company. Play for Work also supports some features like the bulk purchasing of applications. So let's say as a company I want to purchase premium Evernote to all of my employees. I can buy licenses as an admin in bulk and then have those licenses allocated to individual employees. And lastly, one more feature that's worth calling out in my opinion. Play for Work allows companies to push applications to user devices directly. So silent install of applications, no user interaction required, no pop-ups, nothing on the device. The apps that you as a company want to deploy to your users would basically just show up on the user's phones using the Play for Work APIs. All right, so we've covered the technology or some of the key features that the Android team has developed and introduced into the platform to enable Android for Work. But like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, Android for Work is not just a set of features that's developed by the Android team. The partners that we work with, the ecosystem plays a critical role in the success of Android for Work. So you can see here some names of partners that we work with in their respective industries. So MAS 360, as an example, is obviously an EMM partner. And in the case of EMMs, our job as Android, our role as Android is to make APIs available, whether it is a platform API that is enabling new Android platform functionality, or Play APIs for the Play for Work functionality. That is the role that we play, and then we depend on partners like MAS 360 to integrate those APIs, to integrate those capabilities into their products and present them to you guys as part of a comprehensive management solution. So now let's get into some of the vision in terms of forward-looking stuff, and also how that applies to this latest release of Android Marshmallow that is out and launching this month. Our view has always been that we want to start with the basic, or I should say the more traditional use cases for enterprise mobility, like bring your own device, BYOD, or core pliable full device management, which is all of what I was talking about earlier. But we do see a lot of other opportunities in mobile. And our objective in that sense is to expand the pie, if you will, when it comes to work mobility, and start putting some focus on other use cases as well. So on that note, and before we go deeper into the use cases, let's take a poll question. Basically, what are the use cases that come to mind when you think about Android, and when you talk about deploying Android internally? What are the use cases that you think of? Are you thinking of a knowledge worker use case? Are you thinking of a more specialized line of business type application? Are you thinking of rugged devices or kiosk devices. And I'll give you a few seconds to basically fill out your answers, and then we'll continue. So we'll definitely continue to work on the first two use cases that are shown here. But then, as I mentioned, we're putting some more focus into other opportunities, and I've listed out two examples here. There's single-use devices, which is the first example, which is synonymous to kiosks in many ways, but we tend to use the word single-use or the term COSU, which stands for corporate-owned single-use. Because typically, when people think of a kiosk, they tend to think of something that is nailed to the floor or to the wall, which doesn't capture the whole opportunity. At the very least, what we're going after. So, for example, a tablet being used by a nurse to make the rounds at a hospital is a single-use device. In our opinion, it is set up for a specific purpose and a very specific application. And it is not really associated with one user. So in my example, the same tablet can be picked up and used by the next nurse for the next shift. But the point is, this is a device that has been built to perform a specific line of business function, and that function is not inherently associated with a user or a human being in that sense. So that's really our view of what a single-use device is. So you'll see some features in Android Marshmallow if you've looked at some of the things that we've announced in there that address some of those capabilities, and I'll talk about those. I'll reference those in the next slide when we talk about Marshmallow and what we put in there. The other opportunity that's worth highlighting here that we're also looking at is small businesses. So, and the way we look at this is there's many people that carry smartphones in the world today, right? And a lot of those people do work or have jobs. But the concept of work mobility and all of those features that we tend to talk about and we've been talking about here, all of those features are usually reserved to companies that can afford some level of IT or IT sophistication. So as an example, if I own a coffee shop and I have 6 employees, I'm probably not going to bother with any of that today because it's just not easy enough for my type of company. Those are some of the things that we're thinking about and working on in that category. So can we make it such that this coffee shop manager can make an application that takes orders, for example, and makes that application available to his or her employees only. So in other words, can we take some of the features that we're using to basically build up and improve on the productivity from a work perspective, all of the features that we're putting into Android for Work, and make those available to that category of companies, but obviously in a much simpler fashion. In general, we can talk for a long time about the use cases, and we're exploring a lot of very different use cases. Those are two that I listed out here as examples. The important message is that we're looking at what's beyond traditional BYOD, full device management and so forth. We see Android as a platform that could easily lend itself to other use cases and could easily enable other work opportunities. So our latest release of Android has been announced recently. Of course, it's Android Marshmallow. We'll spend some time in the next couple of slides just to tie some of what we've been talking about, whether it's the technology components or the use cases, into what's being done or what's been released in Marshmallow. So effectively, the new highlights of Marshmallow as it relates or in the context of Android for Work. So I was talking about the single use case devices earlier, and we actually did some of that. So I wasn't making things up. We actually did some of that work in Marshmallow. For example, it is now possible and very easy to have a single application take over the entire Android experience. What this means is no status notification bar, potentially no home button, cannot back out of that application. You can really lock a device to a single application. And you can see where this would be where this would be useful, for example, in retail kiosks or retail scenarios, or maybe in a restaurant, for a restaurant menu application that is being displayed on a tablet, and you basically want people locked into that experience. You don't want them, backing out of that application and, doing weird things like opening Gmail or anything like that. Another thing worth highlighting, which we had heard from customers in that sense, or customers that do engage in that use case, is the ability to control updates. Usually the way updates, and to be clear, the updates that I'm talking about here are the over-the-air OS or like the over-the-air Android updates. Usually the way those work is the user has to acknowledge them on the device. So typically when an update is available, you get a notification that says, there is an update available. Do you want to install? And then the user has to basically confirm the install. In the case of a kiosk or a single-use device, or again, a device that is not associated with the one person, you really do not want the person standing in front of the kiosk to actually acknowledge an update or trigger an update or do anything to that effect. You want the administrator to have full control over the update. So we've done exactly that. As an admin, I know when an update for my device is pending, and I can remotely choose to install it or delay it as needed. And this, by the way, is not only applicable to kiosk situations. This is applicable in general. This is an Android feature. So even in a managed device or corporate liable use case where the company wants that added bit of control over what OS version is on the device, they could make it such that all of their managed devices update only when they choose to have them update. We've also added a few features around the management of the device, like the ability, for example, to strictly define what networks a device can and cannot access, and also have the ability to delegate permissions to another application to handle certificate installs for a company. So as a device manager, I can designate a certain application to be responsible for any certs that are installed or even removed from the device. Factory reset protection is something else worth calling out. Factory reset protection is in essence a theft deterrent, which is important for enterprises buying a fleet of devices. So this makes it such that if a device is factory reset, with this feature being enabled, even when the device comes back, it will insist on the same person having to log in again versus returning into a state where just anybody can use it. So again, from a company perspective, it's more of a, it's protecting the investment such that that if devices get quote unquote misplaced or lost, they're not going to be used for anything else. And the only way that those would be usable again is in the context of the management that it was subjected to earlier. So lastly, we're constantly iterating on BYOD features, and we will definitely continue adding things in that space. By the way, there's details for a lot of those features on our site. So if you go to android.com/work or developer.android.com/work, you'll find a lot of details on this. We just picked a few things that are worth calling out and things that we could chat about here, but a lot of details basically on the site, and then obviously a lot more features if you guys are interested. On that particular slide, one cool thing that I'll call out here is the data usage tracking, which is pretty important for those customers that either pay for or subsidize employee cell data plans. So what we've done with Android for Work is you as a company could now be in a position where you can tell exactly how much data was consumed by work applications on the device versus the personal applications. And you can use that info to subsidize the data plan for the employee accordingly. So, like I said, a lot more details in terms of features on our website. Just a few things here on those slides that I wanted to highlight. But in general, this is the extent of what we wanted to cover on Android for Work. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope this was useful. Definitely look forward to answering your questions in the Q&A session. But before that, I'm going to hand it over to Frank, who will talk about how Mass 360 and Android for Work basically come together.
Thank you very much. As Kayla mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, my name is Frank Schloendorn. I am a quality assurance engineer and Android advocate here at Mass 360 IBM. And I'd like to spend a few minutes just going through the Mass 360 solution and particularly how it integrates with Android for Work and offers you a consolidated platform for managing your Android devices, whether they are able to support Android for Work or any other form of MDM type enrollment. So the first thing we want to talk about is why use Mass 360 or what does it offer you in terms of integration with Android for Work or general management of your Android devices. And so the first thing is we have a complete approach to enterprise mobility management. So we have powerful management capabilities to address all your requirements. You could start with the basic best practices for MDM, security policies, behaviors, default settings, so on and so forth, and then evolve it as your needs change for more advanced management capabilities, such as mobile application management, app security, content management, productivity applications, and container solutions. A single console lets the IT administrators manage the entire mobile lifecycle, from deployment through configuration, securing devices, monitoring those devices and support with mixed device environments of all types of devices, vendors, OSs, etc. Customers can easily define and implement powerful compliance enforcement rules based on specific events, context, or location. Customers can also leverage innovative features such as container solutions in the Secure Productivity Suite and BYOD privacy settings to protect personal information for their end users. Mass 360 provides true 360-degree mobility management. All this is delivered in a single, easy-to-use platform that is fast to deploy, delivering an exceptional customer experience. Mass 360 can be turned up instantly with streamlined provisioning, automated workflows, and an intuitive user interface. Mass 360 is also scalable. Mobile can grow fast within an organization, and use cases can vary greatly. You need a solution that can grow with you and deal with the complexity of mobile. Mass 360 provides IT teams a wide range of mobile security options to separate corporate and personal information across different categories of users, devices, content, and apps, all within the context of their business. This gives our customers the flexibility to handle tiered or layered mobile management security to address the various end user needs and IT requirements, from MDM policies to stricter lockdown capabilities of corporate data for specific users, for businesses that need stringent security policy and compliance controls, such as those in the highly regulated healthcare and financial service industries. Containerization can be especially helpful in making the BYOD experience more palatable for users. With Mass 360s, organizations can phase in BYOD and right-size their mobile security investments for different classes of users, departments, geographies, devices, and applications, and apply the technology approach that best meets the need of all those use cases, all from a single unified platform. Mobile First Protect, Mass 360 is built on a mature cloud-based architecture that is multi-tenant, fully redundant, secure, and on-demand. Customers benefit from feature updates that are available instantly and no ongoing maintenance. Customers can effortlessly scale up as there are no infrastructure limitations or the number of devices supported. This allows a high volume of concurrent device enrollments as well as app downloads and document distributions through our secure global content delivery network. We also offer Mass 360 for on-prem deployments. It's delivered as an easy-to-install state-of-the-art software appliance that enables you to start managing and securing your mobile assets quickly. It is designed so you can simply set up and configure the solution and integrate with your environment. New product releases are iterative, giving you the ability to choose when to upgrade and roll out new capabilities. It leverages the same elastic architecture built over a 10-year history of EMM solutions, which can scale to hundreds of thousands of mobile endpoints without adding instances and includes patented enterprise integration technology. Okay. Finally, we offer seamless integration with existing systems. The Mass 360 provides plug-and-play action with your enterprise infrastructure so you can secure and extend it to mobile. Through the Mass 360 Cloud Extender and our set of robust APIs, customers can easily tie in with their existing infrastructure, extending their enterprise capabilities to a mobile environment. This approach allows you to leverage all the existing investments in enterprise infrastructure, such as Microsoft Exchange, Office 365, Lotus Notes Traveler, Active Directory, LDAP, certificate authorities, reporting systems, help desk systems, or other third-party applications. Our approach is not intrusive and does not sit in between any of your mail servers and the end users, so it doesn't introduce any additional points of failure to a customer environment. We also integrate best-in-class technology from IBM and other third-party products to provide the most robust and scalable solutions. These unique prepackaged solutions enable you to deploy apps and content on any device with confidence. Manage 360 can handle the most complex enterprise infrastructure requirements with geographically dispersed sites. As I mentioned in the previous slide, Manage 360 offers a complete mobility management and security platform. A few of the highlights here going over some of the features we offer. Our advanced management for visibility control offers you access to security policies, standard mobile device management, mobile application management, mobile expense management, and many other policy settings to deploy to your devices, settings such as Wi-Fi, VPN, proxy, all the types of configuration options that you could do on a device that MDM solution can handle. We also have a secure productivity suite, which offers our secure email, contacts, and calendars, as well as our secure browser and our app wrapping SDKs that allow you to wrap your applications for deployment and integration within the security platform that Manage 360 offers. We also offer secure document sharing, which allows you to distribute documents securely to the containers or to the devices, as well as a secure editor and viewer for allowing you to actually view and edit documents within the container while restricting the ability to share that content outside of applications that you choose. We then have our mobile enterprise gateway product, which allows you to provide access to corporate resources such as networks, websites, databases, and file repositories through both the Manage 360 secure browser and through the actual container app to access resources that are on your corporate network without the need to connect a VPN directly. Finally, we have various mobile threat management using products such as Veracode and Trusteer that allow us to analyze applications and identify threats located within applications and on the devices as you deploy them or as the applications are installed. So now I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about Manage 360 and Android for Work. Manage 360 has full support for Android for Work. Via easy integration, all you need to do is add your Android for Work token information to the Manage 360 portal, and you go through the configuration steps in order to integrate the two systems. The settings are available in Android policy. So we have an Android Work settings tab, which allows you to control all the various aspects regarding Android for Work policy, security settings, so on and so forth, and enable them within the portal to be pushed to the devices once they're enrolled for Android for Work. We also offer single policy capability for Android for Work and non-Android for Work capable devices. This way you can configure one policy set and have that be able to apply to a device, whether it supports Android for Work at enrollment or not. We offer separate sections within the policy, one for the Android for Work sections and another section within it for the actual devices that don't support Android for Work. We offer new app management options as well. You can choose the option to deploy Google Play apps automatically, which means the user will not be prompted to install the application. You can set the option when you deploy the bundle of applications to the device through Android for Work that the applications will automatically show up in the containers a short time later. We also have the ability to create those bundles to push to devices within Manage 360. So you can upload your application from the Android Workplace, Marketplace, or the enterprise applications to the portal, just as you would for all devices, regardless of whether they're going to be Android for Work enrolled or non-Android for Work enrolled. But then you can actually create the Android for Work bundles that get pushed to the devices, along with the customized settings that apply to them, such as automatically deploying them. You can also set an option to control the default enrollment mode. You can set default enrollment to be standard MDM offerings or the Android for Work option. In addition, when sending an enrollment request to an end user, you can choose at enrollment creation time whether or not it actually will do an Android for Work enrollment or use a standard MDM enrollment. Users who enroll for Android for Work will, for the most part, see a very familiar activation experience with Manage 360. They'll be asked for their Enrollment credentials, usually their email address and their corporate ID, and then their AD credentials. Once they get past that step, they will see a couple new screens related to Android Work specifically for configuring and setting up the Android Work profile. That includes encrypting devices that aren't encrypted by default, as well as putting in any Google account information that their company gave them in order to sign up for the Android for Work enrollment. And finally, you still get access to other capabilities in Manage 360. So you can still use Manage 360 to deploy documents within the container. You can still use our secure browser capability in order to securely surf the web with various options for security and tracking within the portal, and use our mobile access gateway for being able to access corporate documents or corporate websites through the secure browser or through the Manage 360 application. And finally, we'd like to invite you to sign up for a free 30-day trial online. You can start immediately. There's no infrastructure or paperwork for you to deal with. It's fully operational, all features available, and will allow you to make your own informed decision using your own devices. Your environment is your production environment. There'll be no need to re-enroll devices or set up your policies again should you choose to sign up for the service. All you need to do is set up an account and configure your services. And in the event you need some assistance, our dedicated customer success team can show you how to get the most out of your solution. We have a poll question to finish off today's presentation. Would you like to have more information about any of the topics we discussed today? You can choose to have Android for Work reach out, have Manage 360 reach out, or have both Android for Work and Manage 360 reach out to you. If you'd like to have this available, please select an option and click Submit. We'll allow for a few seconds for everyone to complete that, and that will wrap up the presentation for today, and we'll head into Q&A.
All right. Well, thank you, Nadim and Frank, for a great presentation there. So at this point, we'll take the rest of the time here to dedicate to your questions. So if you have a question for Nadim or Frank, just go ahead and submit that through the Q&A box. And since Frank just wrapped up here, we'll let him take a breath and get some water, and we'll bounce it back to Nadim. Nadim, do you want to kick it off with some questions?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kayla. I can get things started. We have a few questions lined up. So the first question that I see here is, can I still leverage Android for Work for my users even where I don't have a deployment of Lollipop devices? So effectively, can I use Android for Work for devices that are pre-Lollipop? So the answer is definitely yes. The pre-Lollipop solution is I touched on it briefly in the presentation. It's an application that is downloadable. It's an application in play that effectively sets up the device in the same way Android for Work would have done with Lollipop and after. So it creates that other profile that is managed by the company. Manage 360 does support that feature. So if you do have a deployment today of Android, and we're talking about Android in this case that is anything ice cream sandwich and above, if you have Android that is basically in that category, even if you don't have Lollipop, you can sign up for the trial. You can get started basically with the Manage 360 and, just use Android for Work basically. And then, of course, once you start getting Lollipop devices or the more recent Android devices, then you can sort of move to the platform capabilities. But effectively, Manage 360 has you covered with your existing devices today. All right, let me take another question. So there's a question from Doug on, let me see, it's a question about the kiosk, the single use or the kiosk modes that I referenced in the presentation. And the question is, will the mail to links inside an application in kiosk mode break Android out of the kiosk mode to get to the native email application? So the short answer is no. You basically, unless you have that native application, so let's say, Gmail or any other mail application, unless you have that application also whitelisted to participate in the kiosk environment, then you cannot break out of your original kiosk application into anything. So let's say the only application that you had whitelisted for kiosk was that one application that you were in, then kiosk mode is really locking you into that application without the ability to break out of the application at all. I'll jump to another question, I think from Doug as well. And the question is, can we restrict updates automatically to the OS with Marshmallow? So the answer is yes. As an administrator to the device, if you're managing the device or you're exercising full device management on the Android device, you could make it such that the updates are completely under your control as the administrator. So whenever the updates are made available, whether they're being made available by the OEM or the carrier, the administrator has the option to apply the updates whenever he or she wants to, or simply back off the updates. For example, if they want to take the time to test them on their own devices before they deploy them to their users, there is that flexibility in the platform.
I'm back. I can see a few questions here I can start answering as well. Give you a chance to catch up and look at what else is coming in. One of the questions is, MAD 360 doesn't encrypt the whole mobile device. There's kind of different answers you go about there. So MAD 360's container that can be deployed on devices is encrypted by default. MAD 360 is also capable of enforcing device-level encryption if the device offers it, which most devices since 4.0 have offered. So you can set up a policy that does not allow a user to enroll or access corporate resources without first encrypting their device. Android for Work, by default, requires your device to be encrypted. So in order to complete enrollment with Android for Work, you will first have to encrypt the device during the enrollment process. For people already using MAD 360, is Android for Work something that needs to be enabled on our account or additional cost? Yes, it needs to be enabled on your account. You can contact our support or account teams for that. As for cost, you'll want to contact your account team as well, and they'll be able to answer those questions for you. Moment.
I can jump in with a couple.
Go ahead. Yep, go ahead. Yep.
So there's a question on what devices are currently supporting Android for Work. So basically where we're at now is, so like I said, there's basically two variants of the technology. If you're on Lollipop, and after you basically have a lot of the features that are part of the platform. So all the native capabilities, the work profile would be available in those on those devices. What the application solution would effectively cover everything that is ice cream sandwich and above. So for the most part, when we're talking about devices that are over ice cream sandwich, you should have coverage basically one way or another when it comes to Android for Work. I'll take another question as well. The question from Sean on the data usage. Does Android for Work data usage monitoring provide reporting, bandwidth limiting, or alerts to users? So it does. It provides. So the data usage monitoring that we put in gives you as an administrator the capability to do your own reporting, if that makes sense. So what this is giving you is the ability to programmatically query the managed profile or the work profile, for example, to ask questions like, how much data have my work applications consumed? And we can be as granular as every individual application. So give me a listing of the work applications and how much data every application has consumed. Our job basically here, or what the API does in that sense, is makes the data available to you. And then for the most part, it is left up to the device administrator to basically either present the data to the user. Maybe you want to alert the user and say, hey, according to our expense management system, you're getting close to a certain threshold. But the point is, you would basically do the notification or any alerting that you would want for the user. Our job would be to just make the data available to your application.
Okay, I'm taking a look, see what other questions we have here. What I wanted to add to that as well is that MAD 360 has built-in tools for monitoring data usage and sending reports to users, warnings, notifications to both admins and users as well. So we can help in that regard as well. Looking for any other Manage 360 questions here. There's a lot on Android for Work, which is great. Is it possible to load apps in Manage 360 which needs to be tested within the corporate network? So there are multiple options available that can help with both Android for Work and Manage 360 there, depending on the type of applications. If it's a web-based application, we have a mobile enterprise gateway via our secure browser, which can be used to establish a secure connection into your corporate network in order to test mobile apps. I know Android for Work also has full support for VPNs from a few different vendors, which can be used to establish VPN connections only within the Android for Work container as well. So you have multiple options there for being able to deploy and test apps that are on your corporate network, and Manage 360 fully supports both of those options.
I can jump in and take a question. So the question from Pavan on whether, the question is, we have our own enterprise app store and MDM. Can we use Android for Work in conjunction with that? So the answer is yes. In fact, on the MDM front, you absolutely need an MDM to use Android for Work, right? So what we're doing on our side is, like I said, we're packaging together the features in the platform. We're making things available, but then the end product as presented to the customer is through an MDM, right? So you can absolutely use Android for Work via an MDM. So for example, if you want to use Manage 360, they will take care of turning on Android for Work for you and basically enabling your devices to that effect. The second part of your question was, we have our own enterprise app store. Can we still use that with Android for Work? So again, the short answer is yes. There's basically you can continue doing what you're doing today from an app deployment perspective. Think of what we're doing with Play for Work as another convenience that you can use. So as opposed to continuing to maintain your own app store and having to worry about things like updates to the applications, do my users have the right version? You can leverage Play to do all of that for you, and you still get with Play the same privacy that you had before, which is if you wanted to upload an application or deploy an application that is only available to your users and nobody else, you can still do that with Play. So Play, think of Play as just a conduit to get applications to the device, but then the catalog of the applications or what you're hosting on there is entirely up to you as a company administrator.
Okay, I have a question here about Android for Work and device administrators. Normally, people who enroll through an MDM process would see a device administrator prompt to allow the device administrator to be installed to do things such as wipe your device, enforce passcodes, so on and so forth. Android for Work is a different way of looking at that. So when you enroll with Android for Work, you won't actually see the prompts for device administrators, since Android for Work is maintaining the corporate side of things. When it wipes everything, it wipes all the corporate settings, not the actual physical device. That's why within the Manage 360 policies, you will see a separate screen for the policies for Android and Work for enforcing things such as passcode and other security settings support. So it's two different options depending if the device is enrolled through traditional MDM or for Android at Work. You have separate sets of policies, many of which overlap to allow you to control those things. But there is not a direct concept of device administrator when you're enrolling for Android for Work. Okay, taking a look, see if we have any other questions here we haven't covered. I think we've about covered everything. Yeah, I think that's about it. So, Kayla, if you want to get us wrapped up, I think we're in good shape.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for a great presentation, and thank you, everyone, for submitting your questions. I do just want to give you a quick reminder that we'll be sending out an email that will provide you access to the recording and slides for today's event. That way you can review anything you missed or share it with others. So on behalf of our presenters and the rest of us here at IBM, we hope you enjoyed today's presentation and have a productive and secure rest of your day. Thanks again.